SpaceX's brilliant new stage separation system is explained by Elon Musk. According to preliminary estimates, the spaceship is shaping up to be the most powerful spacecraft ever built. With the two stages were piled together for the first time, it was recently displayed at their maximum height. However, throughout the spaceship's flight, the stages will be needed to dismantled and reassembled. Because separating the two steps after liftoff is so straightforward, it is mind-boggling and it eliminates the intricate designs for the other rocket manufacturers employ. As unbelievable as it may seem, SpaceX bypassed using a separation technique. Come along with us as we investigate the Starship's bizarre stage separation mechanism. The spacecraft is constructed of two massive segments. The lower stage of a rocket, which is also referred to as the Super Heavy, is the Starship component that assists in escaping the planet's gravitational pull. The rocket, which stands over 70 meters tall and dwarfs everything around it, is powered by more than 30 seat-level Raptor engines to provide the necessary liftoff force. SpaceX has built the rocket to be reusable, which means that once it has completed its mission, it will return to the Earth and land with the assistance of its four-grid fence to prepare for launch of the next task. The spacefaring portion is represented by the ship or upper stage. Although it is approximately 20 meters shorter than the bottom tier, this is another stunning building. However, it is heavier than the lower stage at the time of separation, which is a factor that will be taken into consideration later. Using 6 Raptor engines, a combination of sea-level and vacuum kinds for propulsion and landing, the top stage will travel to far-off areas in the cosmos before returning to the planet to land. Because it is reusable precisely like the bottom stage and smaller, Tesla CEO Elon Musk intends to use it to transport people to Mars to establish a permanent human presence on the planet. According to Musk, this will need numerous voyages to transport tons of goods for life support systems ahead of the explorers. He also has the planet Jupiter in mind as a potential destination, which is a little further away. NASA also plans to utilize the spacecraft to drop men to the moon's surface as part of its Project Artemis mission, which is currently underway. The organization also intends to send astronauts to Mars at some time in future, although it will not be sending average citizens to the planet. All of these interplanetary journeys, on the other hand, will only take place once the ship has disengaged from the extremely heavier booster. Every rocket that launches a cargo into orbit eventually detaches the lower stage again. This is following the rules of physics, since the dead weight of an empty fuel tank on a rocket would only slow down the spaceship if it is not scrapped, and the Starship is no exception. However, when you look at the spacecraft, which stands so tall on its mount and appears to be securely and ideally linked, you might question just how the two stages would separate when the time comes. Other rocket manufacturers have chosen a more complex and riskier option by creating their separation mechanism. More on that later, but not SpaceX, which is shockingly bypassing the process of designing a separation mechanism altogether. To achieve the separation, according to Musk, who is not hesitant to divulge technical specifics about his spacecraft, SpaceX will not be adding anything new to either the upper or bottom portions of the spaceship's structure. He shared this astonishing fact in a 3-part interview with YouTuber Daily Astronaut shown on YouTube. The spacecraft will begin the separation procedure by rotating itself, utilizing the gimbaling Raptor engines on the Super Heavy to accelerate the spacecraft's rotation. This is how the spaceship will introduce angular momentum moments before the main engine shuts down, often known as the Meko cutoff time. The latches between the spacecraft and the Super Heavy will be unlocked during this period, allowing the two stages to drift apart. At this point, after cold gas thrusters have been used to settle the fuel, the ship will essentially float away in a straight and stable line due to the spinning motion it is undergoing. Because the ship is approximately 5 times heavier than its bolster, it will essentially float away in a straight and stable line. Upon completing the separation process, the freed ship will set sail on its journey. At the same time, the Super Heavy will begin its flipping maneuver. In preparation for its return to the surface of the planet, according to SpaceX, this is the procedure they use to launch satellites from their Falcon rockets. It causes the top stage to spin, allowing the spacecraft to float away due to centripetal force. As a result of employing this unconventional approach, NASA does not have to invest money in engineering and building a more reliable pusher spring system capable of launching 1,300 tons of spacecraft from the powerful gravity. The Starship can accomplish this due to another design decision made by the crew of the ship. To prevent nozzle damage from the impact of the booster during separation, the skirts on all 6 Raptor engines are entirely covered. When it comes to its design, SpaceX is well known for attempting to avoid as many difficulties as possible. When they think they can get away with it, the design team eliminates everything that is excessively time-consuming. For example, when the grid fins on the Super Heavy were revealed and their function was explained, many people may have wondered how the heavy components could be deployed and retracted while still retaining enough strength to push and drag rocket wings several hundred tons during the launch and landing process. Instead of designing a complicated deployment and retraction system that will control the car-sized grid fins that weigh tons, SpaceX designed the grid fins on the Super Heavy rocket to be deployed all of the time. Additionally, due to the simplicity of the grid fins, it was easy to use for them and other purpose entirely, which is catching the booster mid-flight with the arms of the launch tower. This is under Musk's idea that he follows a set of 5 stages to achieve success in any of his initiatives. The first stage is to break down the project into requirements and to make the conditions less stupid. The second step is to link the requirements to a person rather than to a department. It does not matter who provided you with the provisions in the first place. It's more harmful if the rules were given to you by a wise person because you might not question them sufficiently. You could take them as a gospel, believing that you have no choice but to comply with the requirements. No matter who you are, everyone is incorrect. Step 2 may require the deletion of a portion or process for eliminating anything that might be done without. This is crucial because if you're not regularly bringing things back in, you're not leading enough. For example, the quickens do not fall, since that would require a whole additional process that we don't need. Steps 3 and 4 simplify or optimize. After finishing step 2 above, the most typical mistake made by a clever engineer is to optimize something that should not exist. The fourth stage is to shorten the cycle time. If you're traveling too slowly, pick up the pace, but don't accelerate until you've completed the other 3 tasks first. Step 5. Automate the entire procedure. Interesting tidbit regarding the Starship separation technique. Another SpaceX employee, not Musk, came up with the idea of a redesign of the system. He or she was successful in persuading Musk to employ the approach. So, suppose you've seen Elon Musk as an autocratic chief engineer who doesn't accept new ideas and insists on having his way. In that case, you'll have to do something envisioning of the famed entrepreneur, since the exact opposite is true. What is the process by which other rockets detach from their spacecraft? Because SpaceX is a place where thoughts may flow both upwards and below a well, in the same way as the spacecraft uses actuation latches or frangible bolts to hold the 2 stages together or separate them. All other rockets do as well. In some Russian rockets, the upper stage is separated from the lower stage before its own rockets fire off or go off to space with more minor, vernier thrusters. In other missiles, the upper stage is separated from the lower stage a short distance before its rocket engines fire off or go off to space with smaller vernier thrusters. In addition to adding additional danger to the mission launch, this separation step is a complicated procedure requiring expertise. The greater the number of phases, the greater the number of separations necessary, and the greater the likelihood of something going wrong. On the other hand, SpaceX is completely removing the danger by implementing a straightforward separation mechanism in the spacecraft. We're coming closer and closer to witnessing things unfold in real life. When SpaceX has completely tested the Super Heavy rocket, the company will set its sights on the maiden orbital flight of the Starships stacked together, which will take place in 2018. This is likely to occur before the end of the year, as SpaceX works to complete the preparations for its spaceships. Comment here and tell us what you think of the Starship's irrational separation system. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a huge thumbs up and do not forget to save us by the bell, as well as subscribing to our channel for more amazing content like this one. See you with another great video.